Well, hey there, YouTube. So this is going to be a response to the actor, comedian, turned YouTuber, Russell Brand. I'm sure most of you already know who he is, and I'm sure some of you are thinking, why bother? It's not like he's ever going to see this, much less respond. But honestly, is that really the point? At any rate, ever since he launched his Truths channel last year, he's been a favorite of liberal, left-wing, progressive online publications. And it's not that I never agree with him on anything. On the contrary, I often do. But I watch many of his videos and I'm generally unimpressed. He's become popular for smacking down right-wing figures and Fox News hosts, but all I ever hear is a lot of rapid-fire rambling that, to quote David Starkey, is at great length and great distance from the point. Last week, he made a response to the Stephen Fry interview clip that recently went viral. In case you haven't seen it, or you need a refresher, here it is.
Suppose what Oscar believed in as he died, in spite of your protestations, suppose it's all true, and you walk up to the pearly gates and you are confronted by God. What will Stephen Fry say to him, her, or it?
I will basically, what's known as theodicy, I think. I'll say bone cancer in children? What's that about? How dare you? How dare you create a world in which there is such misery that is not our fault? It's not right. It's utterly, utterly evil. Why should I respect a capricious, mean-minded, stupid God who creates a world which is so full of injustice and pain? That's what I would say.
And you think you're going to get in on
No,
that?
but I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to get in on his terms. They're wrong. Now, if I died and it was Pluto, Hades, and if it was the 12 Greek gods, then I would have more truck with it, because the Greeks they didn't pretend not to be human in their appetites and in their capriciousness and in their unreasonableness. They didn't present themselves as being all-seeing, all-wise, all-kind, all-beneficent. Because the God who created this universe, if it was created by God, is quite clearly a maniac, utter maniac, totally selfish, we have to spend our life on our knees thanking him? What kind of God would do that? Yes, the world is very splendid, but it also has in it insects whose whole life cycle is to burrow into the eyes of children and make them blind. They eat outwards from the eyes. Why? Why did you do that to us? You could easily have made a creation in which that didn't exist. It is simply not acceptable. So, atheism is not just about not believing there's a God, but on the assumption that there is one. What kind of God is he? It's perfectly apparent that he is monstrous, utterly monstrous, and deserves no respect whatsoever.
Okay, as an atheist, I've heard that same explanation many, many times before, but Stephen Fry is just so eloquent and concise in his exchanges. I'm always awed by his ease of succinctly explaining his position. His answer was solid, but Russell Brand disagrees.
Now, Joseph Campbell, the cultural mythologist, said all religions are true in that the metaphor is true. So what Campbell's saying there is that religion is an attempt to explain the unknowable, in the same way that science is an attempt to explain the unknowable. Science can explain the mechanics of the universe and can explain the mechanics of biology and anatomy, but can it ever explain the why? The answer is no, it can never explain why this is happening.
Actually, science does explain why, but the answer is clearly not what you're looking for. Science has already explained the physical and biological reasons that life forms exist. Ours is the only known planet with a sustainable atmosphere and liquid water, which makes life possible. But that explanation is obviously not good enough for you. You're looking for some grandiose, spiritual, and philosophical reasons for your existence. And quite frankly, I find that to be childish and primitive. Ultimately, there are no such objective philosophical reasons. Yeah, outside of the biological realm, your existence, Russell, is utterly pointless. And my question is, what's wrong with that? Take me, for example. I'll go to the nearest thing to what could be my so-called creators. My parents. I know that they didn't intend to conceive me, but even if they had, it would make no difference to me at all. Their cells may have made my physical body, but they, my creators, are not the ones who decide my purpose for existing. Nobody gets to make that call for me. I have never wanted nor required a cosmic master to give me a reason to exist. In fact, just that very concept makes my stomach turn.
What we all want to know is there a reason for us being here? And what is the nature of the universe? What is the nature of our consciousness?
Again, these questions have already been answered by science. The nature of the universe is strong interaction, electromagnetic force, weak force, and our dear old friend gravity. But again, these are not the answers that you want to hear. You need poetry in your life. Pretty, flowery prose to represent reality. The fact that the existence of life is a product of random occurrences that didn't have some intent behind it apparently bothers you. I don't see why they should. If anything, the fact that we don't have to exist, and yet we do by some crazy stroke of luck in our favor, is reason enough to celebrate. Anthropomorphizing nature and the universe as a way to explain the why of existence is not only insufficient because it really doesn't answer anything, but it's also a kind of conceit. The idea that billions of years of formation of the cosmos and our sun and the planets and millions of life forms evolving and going extinct, all for the express purpose to lead to our existence, is beyond arrogant. I think you need a hard lesson in confirmation bias.
Terence McKenna, a kind of wacky shaman fella, said that the perspective of contemporary science is give us one free miracle and we'll explain the rest. That free miracle being that the universe sprang into being with these exact rules that are required for life and consciousness to exist.
Except that the majority of the known universe is totally non-conducive to supporting life, Russell, or have you forgotten that? Your rationale has deteriorated to the fine-tuning argument. Our Milky Way galaxy has billions of stars, but our sun is one of only 5% of them that is even capable of possibly supporting life, and even that isn't saying a whole lot. There are 4 terrestrial planets in the inner solar system, but Earth is the only one that exists within the Goldilocks zone. That is, its distance is not too far or too close from the sun. Earth also has a fantastic atmosphere that protects us from much of the sun's harmful ultraviolet rays, as well as all of the deadly radiation in space. But even Earth isn't a perfect paradise, what with plate tectonics and climate change and deadly weather. Earth wasn't always habitable, and it won't always be habitable. Eventually, the sun will grow to become a red giant and boil all life off our planet before it completely vaporizes it. Then there are the 4 gas giants and nearly 700,000 dwarf and minor planets in our solar system. There are at least between 100 to 200 billion planets in the Milky Way galaxy alone, and the estimated number of galaxies in the universe is 100 billion. It's a number that is too great to really fully comprehend. And yet, Earth is the only known planet to have life, and that only came about from some extremely long odds. To use a better analogy, Earth won the galactic Powerball. So if you're really going to go for the fine-tuning argument, then why isn't life conducive on every planet? Why can't life survive anywhere else that we know of?
For me, as a person who believes in God, my understanding of God is this, that my consciousness emanates from a perspective and it passes through endless filters, the filters of the senses, the subjective filters of the senses and of my own biography. This is good, this is bad, this is wrong, I want that, I don't want that. But behind all of that, there is an awakeness, an awareness that sees it all. And it's in you too, and it's in Stephen Fry, and it's in the man that was interviewing him. It's in all of us, an awakeness, an interconnectivity.
Your consciousness is a byproduct of your brain, Russell. Nothing more. This is not a matter that is up for debate. It is a fact. With no brain, there is no consciousness. We know this. We've known this for a very long time. I'll be honest, my patience is rapidly beginning to wane because it sounds like you're gearing up for some wretched New Age woo speak.
None of us can ever know if there is a God, but we do know there is an us. None of us can ever know if there's wrong or right, but we do know there is an us.
Right and wrong are abstract and usually subjective terms. Much of what we consider to be right is beneficial to the survival and care of other life forms, including humans. The concept of wrong would be something that generally brings about some unnecessary harm. Yes, we do know that there is an us, that doesn't even begin to logically follow that deities and the supernatural exist.
For me, Fry's conclusion that we should abandon God to be free, I believe the opposite, that we should embrace God to be free. Not embrace dogma, not embrace doctrine, but look, because within religion, even the most conventional religions, there's so many beautiful things. In fact, the thing Stephen Fry said there about that he who is without sin cast the first stone comes from a story in which Mary Magdalene, a prostitute, was being condemned, and Christ said, well, hold on a second, before we all start getting leery about Mary Magdalene, yous lot are all perfect, are ya? And now Fry says, how would you apply that principle judiciously in contemporary justice? Well, I would say that when you are condemning murderers or paedophiles, to acknowledge within us all is the capacity for evil. That as Solzhenitsyn, the Russian writer, said, the line between good and evil runs not between nations, religions, continents or creeds, but through every human heart. So when you are judging a paedophile, when you are judging the worst kind of criminals imaginable, to acknowledge that the thing in them that has manifest this negativity is also within us, and that our first duty is to negotiate with the negativity within ourselves, and that if we can successfully negotiate with that, then we can create a better society.
What? Okay, first of all, the parable that you're referring to in John 8 was not about a prostitute nor Mary Magdalene. Nowhere in the Bible does it ever say she was a whore. Jesus of Nazareth was presented with a woman caught in the act of adultery, meaning that she was a married woman who cheated on her husband because, adultery only applied to married women. This is why it pays to actually read the Bible and not just watch movies about it. Anyway, he was being forced into a corner. Either he had to condemn the woman to death as mandated by the God of the Bible, aka his father, aka him, or he could argue the fact that such a law is barbaric and that the woman didn't deserve to die, which would therefore make him in violation of God's law. What he did was he changed the game in mid-play by challenging her accusers to pronounce their own sinlessness. And for the sake of this parable, that's all well and good. If, however, we are to examine our own faults when condemning murderers and child molesters, you are basically making the claim that all sin is equal.
Yes, there is suffering, and what can we do about suffering? We can help one another, and we can love one another. Now, if you can do that through atheism, then do it through atheism. But a lot of people need to know that this is temporary, that we are the temporary manifestation of something greater, something complete and whole, something timeless and spaceless and absolute. And every dogma in the world has been trying to tackle and understand that. Art has been trying to represent it. Science has been trying to explain it. And no one can. We're up against the parameters. And I believe that without embracing something spiritual, something whole, something beyond human thought, we have no chance of saving ourselves and saving the planet. We are all connected to consciousness. We are all connected to one another. And to me, that sounds a little bit like God.
And to me, that sounds like some hippie shit. We need spirituality to save ourselves and the world. Save ourselves from what, exactly? What are we in danger of without spirituality? And what is spirituality as you define it? And as for saving the world, we already understand, climate change denialists aside, how our actions negatively affect the planet. And it's not spirituality that we collectively utilize to remedy this problem. It is policy changes and scientific advancements in alternate forms of fuel and energy that decrease our abuse of the earth. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, what are you talking about? You titled your video, Is There a God? Yes, Stephen Fry Proves It. How? You never really explained this. It was just a jumble of theistic cliches that lacked substance of any sort. It's almost sad that you presented this mess as deep thinking when it was devoid of any critical thought whatsoever. How exactly are you famous?
She was pure, every ounce. I was sure when the team bounced everywhere. She's a winner, turn a gay. Preacher to a sinner, y'all. The one you want your mama to meet. She's a